Thank you for joining me for another episode of this podcast. My name is Yahya, and joining with me is Aliza. She's currently interning at CIBC as a marketing communications intern. So I know your schedule is pretty packed right now, so I really do appreciate your chunk of time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. No, I'm like really excited to be here.
Yeah, appreciate your time. So just like as to how I know her, I did do a LinkedIn post just looking for people who might be interested in sharing their experiences at Schulich. She kind of reached out, so yeah, she's here today to just give her insights about the Schulich lifestyle here.
Yeah.
So I know you're kind of into marketing, so like what specialization are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I'm specializing in marketing. I just finished my third year at Schulich. So I'm going into my fourth year, but I've completed my specialization. But yeah, no, marketing's been like very, very fun for me from like first year, the marketing course that I took. It's been something that I've really, really loved. And I know that in second year we don't take it, right? So it's something that I definitely missed. And after coming back, it's just very interesting.
Gotcha. What got you like interested about marketing, if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, I just think from like a young age, I've always been very into like, like storytelling and everything. And I feel like marketing is just like a way to do that. And honestly, I've never been someone that's like more on the finance side or like very math girl type. I've always been someone that's more like passionate about like storytelling. I like writing, I like reading. And so I think that just like having marketing as like in business, it kind of helps me incorporate those passions into my career without it feeling like I'm getting burnt out or anything. So I feel like if you are someone that's like more towards like creativity and like leans more towards, creating things, then I think marketing is definitely the way to go for that.
Gotcha. So it was kind of like a process of elimination, but also kind of like realizing
Exactly.
that storytelling was for you.
hmm Yeah. If you look, I literally have a huge like bookshelf right there, and there's like 100 plus books on there. And so I'm like a really big storyteller. So that's why I love marketing so much because of that.
Gotcha. I mean, I don't really like see the bookshelf myself, but like, do you have any favorite books on that bookshelf?
Ooh, oh my God. Okay, so there's this one book. I read it like 2 years ago. It's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And it's just a complete like mind-numbing journey. It's a thriller, but it's like and it has a movie. Don't watch the movie. The movie's very confusing. You won't understand it. But the book does a really good job of like depicting everything. It's a very confusing ending, but the book does a good job of like you can kind of understand it. Movie won't show you that. But yeah, it's about this girl and her boyfriend, and they go on a trip to visit his parents for dinner. But then there's like a snowstorm and things just get really weird from there. So yeah, definitely recommend checking it out. Don't go in like with any spoilers or anything. But yeah. Anyways, that's my book review.
I know you said you also finished third year too, and you're entering your last year of undergrad. So, do you have any favorite profs? Do you don't like any profs? Like, what's your take on that?
I actually have an older sister that also went to Schulich. So she kind of tells me like who the good profs are and everything. So I try to like get those. My favorite prof of all time, she's also in marketing. So it's Margaret Hastings. The way that she teaches, I feel like she's one of the profs out there that actually cares about her students and wants them to succeed. I think that because I had her for um one course in first semester and one course in second semester of third year. And she actually does provide you with a lot of opportunities to like not only network, but also like try to further your career in like with like internships and everything. She kind of helped us. She so one of her older students held a networking event at PepsiCo, and they were hiring for multiple marketing positions, and it was opened up to our class, and it was solely for Schulich York students that got to go there. And we wouldn't have known about it unless she had given it to us. I'm not sure if anyone actually ended up getting that role, but it was definitely a really great learning experience, especially because for so many of us like after COVID and everything, we didn't have any like in-person networking sessions that we could go to or something of that like professional standard that we could go to during those 2 years in COVID because everything was online. So it was really great and refreshing to kind of be in that and be more immersed into it. But yeah, other than that, like I just think the way that she teaches everything is so great, and she's a very understanding prof as well. Like, if you need to miss a class to take an interview or something, you can let her know and she'll let you. It'll be okay. Other than that, like, she also gives really great feedback on, like, projects and everything, and oh, the CIBC internship that I'm doing right now, I actually used, like, one of her lessons in the interview, um, and then I got the job. So I think that, she's just really helpful. Honestly, I could go on about her. She has so much experience. Low key, I wanna be her in the future, so yeah, she's great. As for a prof that I didn't like, oh my god, can I say that on here? I feel like that's mean.
I don't think this will blow up, so I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't like Theodore Tolias that much. I don't know, do you know who Theodore is?
So yeah, I'm going into second year and I've seen his rate my
Mhm.
prof reviews. They're not really that great.
Yeah, he's a second year econ professor, and so I don't know if it was I just took it at 8 AM. I think there was only 8 AM slots for econ in second year. But Theodore, he was just really boring. Like I don't he was also really nice, okay? I'll give him that. He was really nice, but he was really boring. So I just don't think that like if you are taking econ, I don't know who the other professors are. Oh, there's also I think Moshi. Moshi is also not great, but I think he might be a little bit more interesting than Theodore.
And I guess like since we're talking about courses too, outside of courses, do you like anything about Schulich in particular that drew you to the school?
Honestly, I think that the Schulich environment is a lot better than a lot of people would say that it is. I think a lot of people know Schulich to be, oh, very competitive. I know there's like this whole rumor around York where like people show up in business suits and they're all like so professional and everything. But honestly, from my experience, everyone that I've met, everyone that I'm friends with, everyone's so real and like everyone's so down to help you. Everyone's like a ride or die. And I feel like for a lot of the time, especially in first year and second year, because I didn't get to know everyone as well as I wanted to, there was always some sort of like kind of barrier of like, okay, like what can I say? What can't I say? Like, are we like friends or are we just like peers? But I think the good thing about Schulich is that number one, I feel like because it's so small, you get to create those connections a lot faster and a lot more they become a lot deeper than like they would in let's say other programs just because there's more chances for you to be in the same class. You're definitely going to see each other on campus more often and everything. So I think that just like as long as you're open to making friends, everyone is open to making friends and everyone just kind of wants that connection and that kind of backup there because no one wants to be alone, right? At the end of the day. So I think that that's one of the really great things that I really loved is that everyone's so real and everyone's so nice and everyone is just very open and very friendly. So yeah, you never really feel alone, I feel like.
Right. I guess like it also depends on if you're commuting or if you live on res too. Which one were you doing?
So I was commuting and that was honestly it was a headache itself. I don't like commuting. Living on res does seem a little bit more like fun in terms of like okay, like which classes do I want to take and like, everything. But also what I would say is that at first, it was really hard for me to find people that lived near me in like because I commute. So I commute from Mississauga and I was looking for people that, live not only in like Mississauga but also in my area. Like a 10-minute drive away from me is like, someone that was like close by and I had a really hard time finding people like that. Um but again, everyone's just so nice and friendly. Like um you'll eventually meet people like that. I think the best thing that we did in first year was we actually created a group chat of like everyone that's from Mississauga and we created a group chat and so after that we could kind of see like okay, all these people are in my city, like let's see like can we commute back together? Can we like, figure out a time that we want to meet? Maybe we want to go like hang out at like a mall or something. So there's a lot of different like opportunities for that, but I think that was definitely one of the hardest parts about being a commuter student is that you're not always on campus, you have to go home eventually. So there is that sort of FOMO or like that sort of like oh like there's people here that maybe I could have met, but I didn't meet, and now like we don't have that chance or that opportunity. But ultimately, I think that as you go along, like it gets better. So I think like just hold on for that connection. It's gonna come. Once you find people that are on the same bus as you though, and like you guys decide like, okay, like we can commute back together and everything, then like I feel like those bus rides or those commutes are like where people become like this. Like that's where people actually get close. Like my best friend at Schulich, I literally met her, or sorry, no, that's how we got close. It's through our commutes together. She doesn't even live here. She lives in Oakville, but yeah, it was just through the commutes. You just get close to people. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I know like sometimes Schulich being a commuter school can be like a disadvantage for others. Do you feel like
Mhm.
there's other parts of Schulich that you don't really like?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've never really thought about it. In my first 2 years, there was that sort of I don't know if it was just COVID, but honestly, it just felt like a lot of people were again, this is like it's gonna contradict something that I said before. But I think it's just about finding the right people because honestly, like you can talk to a lot of people at Schulich, and a lot of people are gonna put on like a brave face, and they're not gonna like show on it like whether they're struggling in this course or whether they're doing this. And like honestly, like I'm gonna say something about Schulich. Like, you know, everyone here, we worked really hard for like to get into Schulich, and everyone that's in Schulich is obviously like everyone is very smart, right? So sometimes it can be a little bit disheartening or like a little bit discouraging when you see someone that's like excelling in a course or like in something that you're not doing well in, and then no one kind of really shares their struggles about it. So yeah, that was a little bit hard for me, and I've spoken to like other people like um in my year, and they said like similar things about how that kind of stuff just kind of took a toll on their confidence. But ultimately, like I also think that it comes with like the grading scheme. Like Schulich is hard, like it's difficult here, right? So I think that it just kind of comes with the territory, and like you kind of learn to grasp with it. And then as everyone gets a little bit older, you know, everyone kind of like gets a little bit more used to Schulich. That's when everyone's a little bit more real, and they're like, okay, you know what? Like this course was hard. Like I didn't do well in this course. Like, or it maybe not even that. Maybe it's just like, you know, like I'm struggling. Can like someone help me? Like can I get someone's notes or something? You know, so you just build that comfort.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can kind of relate to that too because I know sometimes everyone LinkedIn or just in the classroom, they feel like
Yeah.
they're accomplishing stuff, but
Mhm.
don't really talk about the negatives. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. One thing that so I am doing my CIBC internship in my like summer between third year and fourth year. And this is my first internship. A lot of people did their like did internships, you know, maybe during the year, maybe during second year, in like the summers before, like in summer of first year, summer of second year. So there is like sometimes that feeling of like maybe I'm falling behind, maybe I'm not doing as well as everyone else, but it's at your own pace. Like I personally, I knew that I wanted an internship this summer, and I wanted my last summer to be like my last summer. I wanted to, you know, live it up, do everything that I couldn't do before, which is why I put off getting an internship. But I think that, you know, it just comes down to what you want and how you want to um like do your school, like how you want to do your 4 years here. A lot of people, like I said before, they do it like during the term. A lot of people have like maybe 3 4 internships under their belt, and that's really great for experience. And I think that, like I said, it's just up to you. I think a lot of people get like disheartened or like they start thinking that maybe they're not doing enough. But I think that as long as you stay true to like what you want, you'll be okay.
I like to add on to that. I know even though you said your first year was online, like was there anything difficult about the transition from high school to university? And like before you answer that question, management 1050 doesn't exist anymore for us. So, yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Okay, management 1050 was stats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Stats sucked. I hated stats so much. But I mean, who didn't? Honestly, I mean, I guess you didn't have it, did you? Right?
Nope. Yeah, we
No,
didn't.
you had some. Okay, you had like almost 10 something. What was
Almost
it? Oh,
1050.
almost 1050. Okay, I don't know if that was like easier or harder, if it was like the same thing, but yeah, stats sucked. That was like a big punch in the face, if I'm being honest. But everything else, the biggest difference I would say was probably the grading scheme, because in high school I feel like it was a lot easier to like get the best grades and like everything, right? But at Schulich there's like a very strict like grading policy. And I think that it's that the class average always has to be a 7, or is somewhere around like a B, I'm pretty sure. And then for harder courses for stats, I'm pretty sure it was that it had to be like at a C plus or something like that. So it's like going by that was a little bit more difficult, just because I was so used to not getting like those grades, if that makes sense. But I think it's a little bit of a shift in perspective, as in like doing well in uni, especially in first year, looks a lot different than doing well in high school. And so that's the biggest shift. Another big shift is that, you know, professors have such large classes, they will not remember you unless you make yourself known, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure that you're participating, you want to make sure that your prof knows you. It makes them more inclined to like not only like you, but then also I know a lot of people need like referral letters for like maybe if they're going into law school or something, so it makes it easier for that. It also makes it easier just like if maybe like you're sick, you can't come to class, then like they know you, so then it's like it doesn't take too much off of your participation grade or anything. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. Very little stuff. On Schulich itself is very small, so it does feel like a high school at times, just because everyone kind of knows each other. I think there's like 400 people that are like in the program every year, right? Or 400, 500 people. So it's like, as in terms of like a culture shift, it's not that difficult, but academically, like it is definitely a shift, and you just kind of have to change your perspective and become a little bit more like on top, like on your game with it, if that makes sense. So yeah.
And did you feel like time management was also a big jump for you?
Yeah, honestly, it like the thing is with high school, it feels like okay, even if you have a lot of stuff done, there's still a little bit of like leniency. For uni, it feels I don't know why, but it feels a lot more like high stakes. I think it's because everything is worth so much more. I don't remember which exam it was, but like exams are like worth 45%, 50% sometimes, and that can really get to your head, and that can really like make you stressed out for stuff. If you like defer your assignments to like the final exam, then like the your exam weight can become heavier. My one friend, he had this one accounting class, and he was taking it, and so he didn't do any of the assignments for it. It was like a 20% participation, but he didn't do any of the assignments for it, right? So he got them all deferred to his final exam, so the weight of his final exam became 80%. And that's insane. And I told him not to do that, but it's just stuff like that. But then at the same time, like sometimes you'd find that like if two things are due on the same day, you kind of have to choose one, right? To focus on more. And then the other one, you just kind of have to, take whatever grade you can get on that. Obviously, I don't recommend doing that. I recommend like starting beforehand and like working on it for like a period of time. But you will find that there's going to be times where you're pulling an all-nighter because you just have not had time to study, to do this, to do that. But yeah, luckily we have a Starbucks at Schulich, so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that Starbucks is racking money. Like it makes so much money.
Dude, they charge 50 cents for water. I literally think that's illegal. Like it's got to be illegal.
Yeah, I don't know, like for some reason on campus too, there's no bottled water. Like you can find any type of like, yeah, I don't know, yeah, like you can find any type of water, like flavored water, but like if you want pure natural like bottled water, you can't find that anywhere.
Can't find it anywhere. It's so weird. Like I don't know. They're a lot about making money at the Schulich Market Cafe. Not even honestly, I wouldn't call it a Starbucks. It's not a real Starbucks. But yeah, Schulich Market Cafe. We can call it that.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
since we're like talking about campus too, I know some people usually have some issues with the security or like incidents that has been happening on campus. Like, what's your take on that?
Honestly, I think that it's a little bit sketchy. There's a lot of random people that just show up on campus. And I think that's the weirdest like part is that I think that's because it's because of the subway now. A few years ago there wasn't like the subway. So the go buses would just drop you inside of campus. But to it's for some reason I think it was for like controlling their like carbon footprint. They changed it so now there's the subway and a lot of people just like randomly come on from there. I don't know if he's been here yet, but or like this year for like when you've been here, but in the Schulich basement last year was hybrid. So last year sometimes we would come on campus and there was this skateboard guy and he'd just be walking around the Schulich basement. He was so weird. He would like start doing yoga in the middle. He had his skateboard with him. Sometimes he'd be like skating across the basement. One time, I think he started yelling at my friend too. It was very clear that he was like weird, right? And then, you'd call security, but security wouldn't come. Like they'd take like 45 minutes to get there, and by then the guy would be gone, right? So like it's really annoying in that sense. Also, I mean, I'm sure you know about the 5'10" man that's like been plaguing the campus recently and all the robberies and everything that's been going on with that. I think there was also a stabbing that happened. And so I don't I don't know. I know that they're trying to do more increased security. So I saw some on like in like the last few months of like being on campus, I saw some more like police officers like just walking around in general. But at the same time, like, I don't know how much that would help because I feel like, after everything that happened in like 2020, um, with like the police and everything, I don't know how much safer everyone feels, but it's just complicated. I don't really know how you could alleviate that, but yeah, that's a little bit about my take. One crazy thing I'll say though is that I think the craziest thing is that there's been like shootings this year. I think there were two shootings. And I think that's the craziest thing. Um, I know one of them was in the quad, and the quad has like it doesn't have like security guards there, but it has like a security key that like every person has to tap, and it's for every single door that you enter. So I don't know if like that person that was at the quad and like was with the like gun and everything. I don't know if they were part of it, like part of the quad or like lived there. Um, but I don't know. I just feel like there's so many things that like have contributed to this like weird aura around York this year. But yeah, there's resources though. I don't even know what it is, but there's basically this service on campus. Like if you are on campus kind of like alone and it's like you don't want to walk alone, then you can call or I think there's an app where you can call them and they send someone to come walk with you. And my friend used to work for that. I think it's called Go Safe. And my friend used to work with that and he would like escort people to where they wanted to go on campus. And I think that's like a good idea. But other than that, like I don't really know anything else that York has done to kind of increase security.
Gotcha. Yeah, GoSafe is actually like a pretty good service too. Yeah, that's the name of it. But yeah, I highly recommend that too. If you
Yeah.
feel unsafe, if you're kind of at night, it's kind of sketch out,
Mhm.
just call GoSafe and I think they transport you to anywhere near campus.
Yeah, I think in the summer they have golf carts, I'm pretty sure. So even if you don't feel safe, like even if you feel safe, just like call them for the golf cart. Honestly, that's what I would do.
Gotcha. Moving aside from campus questions, I know I'm not too sure if you're a part of clubs at Schulich, but what's your take on the importance of clubs and on your resume at Schulich?
I think that honestly, I think they can really make or break your resume. So I wasn't on a Schulich club, but I was the president of a York club. Um, and I think that that really, really helped me. I think it would be honestly better if I was part of a Schulich club. Just because I know that like more businesses know Schulich as a name, right? So then when you kind of have a Schulich club associated with you, then they kind of realize that, oh, you were part of this community. But either way, even if you're not on a Schulich club, I think that the importance of clubs itself is just it's so important. I think that really helps differentiate your resumes from other people's resumes, especially whatever your role is. So you could be a general member and that's great, but I definitely recommend going for an executive position if you can, if you feel like you're capable, go for like a presidential role or like one of the higher up like VP roles or something because those really do set you apart. And then you're gonna also find that when you're in interviews and maybe they ask you like a random question that like you can't you usually wouldn't know the answer to when like you haven't practiced it, when they throw you that random curveball, you can kind of just reflect back on that experience because you have that experience. You can say something from the heart and it doesn't even have to be something that like, you practice beforehand. It's just something that you know automatically, right? So I think that honestly, like those are one of the most important things that you can do at Schulich, and I recommend everyone literally apply for any and every club that you can apply for. It's also really great for networking because Schulich clubs specifically have a lot of networking events. So from that, you can find a lot of people that work at, the big four or like the big five banks or something. And through that, you can kind of like make those connections and, network your way into an internship. Even if you don't want to join any of those clubs, I definitely recommend, at least going to those networking events. You'll see that there's a really big like change in the way that you can answer interview questions and it really helps you like become differentiated from everyone else.
Gotcha. And like with the internship process, I know Schulich doesn't really have co-op, so do you feel like you were at a disadvantage without having co-op?
Honestly, a little bit, just because like I have friends in other universities that do have co-op programs and it seems like their unis were a lot more hands-on with their internship process, whereas for Schulich, the only main thing that we really have is the handshake portal. So that's like the internship portal where like everyone can kind of find internships and jobs, but it doesn't have everything. So I also recommend looking at LinkedIn because LinkedIn has a lot of job postings on it. But yeah, Handshake, it's there and you can apply through there. The annoying thing about that is that you apply first on Handshake and then you have to apply again on the company's website. So it doesn't really like do anything. All it really does is tell you what the job opportunities are. Other than that, like it's not too helpful. I know that there's advising sessions as well where people can go. Um but in terms of like that, like I've never done that. So I don't know what the process is for that. But I know that people go there sometimes. Sometimes it's for like, their courses and to plan out their 4 years at Schulich, or sometimes it is to like get advice about internships or anything. But I think the main thing that I would recommend if because Schulich doesn't have its own like on hand um like program for internships, what I would recommend is number one, networking. Okay. And it's not just networking with people that you find on LinkedIn, it's also networking with like your professors, anyone that's been like that's in Schulich, that's an upper year that also had an internship, or just like alumni, like literally anyone that you see that has been successful, contact them and ask them like what did you do, because I think that that's the most like helpful thing, is just kind of learning what other people did and learning from that and trying to follow in those footsteps. Another thing that I would say is that you for internships you do have to be very organized. You have to, manage your time appropriately and make sure that you're allocating your time to applying and getting internships. A lot of people, they cold apply and then they do a lot of like coffee chats and a lot of like, just a bunch of stuff. People work really hard to get internships because it's very difficult in some cases, and you'll find when you're going through the process that you're gonna get a lot of rejections and maybe and very few acceptances. But again, just like keep your cool. Like it's just the process, right? As long as you're on top of it, it's basically like another course. If if I would say so myself. You just have to stay on top of it, make sure you're getting the work done and set deadlines and schedules for yourselves because obviously everything has a different deadline. But yeah, just stay on top of everything. That's the best thing that I can say because no one else at the end of the day is going to stay on top of it for you.
And I guess like one side question to that is I know usually business students and I guess Schulich students too, they kind of have this sense of FOMO or like fear of missing out or falling behind,
Yeah.
kind of that like imposter syndrome. So I don't know if
Mhm.
you've experienced it personally, but like how would you overcome that feeling?
Yeah. I can say that I have felt that for I did feel it. I think it's especially stronger in like your first year because you're first getting to meet everyone. So everyone just kind of seems like above and beyond and like you're kind of like looking at yourself and you're like, "Oh, like, you know, who am I here, you know?" Um I think the best thing to just keep in mind is that everyone else feels the same way. If if everyone knows that this imposter syndrome is a thing, then there's a reason for it, and it means that everyone is also feeling the same thing. So, I think that's the best way to think about it is that if you feel like, "Oh, like, I feel like I'm lacking. I feel like I don't really, fit in here or anything," everyone else either has gone through the same experience or is going through it right now. And, like, I think that's, the it's, like, the biggest thing to consider is that you're not alone in feeling like that, and so, if everyone's feeling like that, then no one is really an imposter, but yeah, that's, like, what I used to kind of wrap my head around it, and then once you find your people at Schulich and, you guys start getting closer, then you're gonna start to feel like, okay, like, there's more people out here and not everyone is, you know, this like perfect person, right? Um, but yeah, I think that that's just the best way to think about it is that everyone goes through the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. I know from like previous podcast episodes, like people have told me that's always usually the same 50 people who are like tryhards or who are like
Yeah,
trying their hardest to come at the top. So, like the other 350 students, they're kind of like in
yeah,
your position too struggling. So that kind
mhm,
of gives that perspective of that,
yeah,
like, it's not everyone who's trying hard to. There's like obviously people who are struggling with the same courses, same homework, same
exactly.
stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think what you'll find is that, if you have class group chats and then people are like when come exam time, okay, people will be, on the group chats being like, "Oh my god, like, I don't understand this, can someone explain this to me?" And, that's when you really realize, "Oh, like, I'm not the only one that's struggling here. Everyone is in the same boat." So, yeah, I think, I think you're right about, there's the same 50 people that are, I mean, I don't wanna say, tryhards, but, they they are, excelling, and I think that, they just make it more known than other people, what their accomplishments are, and they hide it better what their struggles are. Everyone else is in the same boat, and even they're in the same boat, they just don't show it.
But yeah, I thank you so much for like taking the time like out of your day to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you have any questions for her too, I'll leave her LinkedIn.
You can also, follow me on LinkedIn. If anyone is watching this and wants to, have a coffee chat or anything, let me know. I'm completely down. But yeah, that's all I can really say.